Revealed, 12 sinister trucker horror stories that will haunt your dreams. Untold and cursed. The moon hung heavy over Graywood, a town enveloped by gnarled trees whispering secrets as a wet chill seeped into the bones of those who dared to listen. Jamie, a struggling single mother, constantly felt the weight of shadows around her. Bills piled high, echoing the haunting stress within that tangled her heart each night. And then there was Lily, her inquisitive 6-year-old, always asking about her father, opening wounds Jamie wished to keep closed. Desperation led Jamie to accept a night shift at Graywood Freight, the only trucking company willing to hire her. Under the flickering fluorescent lights, the hum of the office felt oppressive as Jamie settled into her new routine. Calls to drivers echoed through the night, the sound of engines roaring through desolate highways. Then there was the call that jolted her awake. Big Joe wasn't just a driver, he was a storyteller, weaving tales from the open road and dark highways. His voice was gravelly, yet oddly comforting, like a warm blanket draped over her shoulders. "You know, Jamie, there is something folks don't talk about driving out there," he began, luring her into his web of unsettling legends. "Families vanish, you see. Just, gone." At first, she laughed it off as a man trying to spice up his long hours alone. But as the calls continued, a knot twisted tight in her stomach. Each story grew darker, as if Big Joe took pleasure in recounting unseen horrors. One night, Lily appeared at Jamie's side, clutching crayon drawings. "Look, Mommy," she whispered, her wide eyes serious. The images were twisted, bone-white figures on long highways that seemed endless. A single word loomed among them, bleeding innocence, help. Panic gripped Jamie. Those drawings weren't just childlike doodles, something darker simmered beneath. She tried to voice her fears to the local sheriff, but he scoffed, dismissing her worries with condescending remarks. "Fear is just your imagination in a quiet town like Graywood," he chuckled, his confidence unnerving. But there was no comfort in the shadows creeping into her life. The sketches multiplied, each more disturbing than the last, featuring haggard silhouettes with hollow eyes. Big Joe crawling into her reality from behind the phone line. Researching the town's tragic history, she found dark tales intertwined with Graywood's fabric. Deaths, disappearances, secrets buried deeper than the roots of the trees around her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Growing desperate, Jamie vowed to confront Big Joe. What darkness awaited her in that voice? Just as the resolve began to build inside her, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air like glass shattering. It came from Lily's room, wiry dread coiling in Jamie's stomach. Terror gripped her as she bolted toward the noise. What lay beyond that door? Would she find her daughter safe or face an unspeakable horror? She rushed through the silence, each heartbeat louder than the last, leaving behind the flickering lights and unraveling threads of Graywood's haunting past. The question loomed, was the monster they feared lurking in the shadows, or was it much closer than she ever dared to imagine? The door to Lily's room swung open like a trap, creaking ominously on its hinges. Jamie hesitated, breath caught in her throat, and peered into the darkness. The only light came from the moon, pooling silver on the bed empty. Panic spiked in her chest. "Lily?" Her voice trembled, a whisper swallowed by the suffocating stillness. "Mommy." A soft voice emerged from the closet, frail and small. Jamie's heart lurched. She rushed to the door, pushing it open forcefully, the gloom deepening around her. The sight that met her was both a relief and a horror. Lily was curled up on the closet floor, clutching her crayon drawings, the same haunted images. But now, they were littered with words. "Help me, they're coming, and don't let them take me." Each piece seemed alive, rippling with a shivering dread that spilled from the page. Lily, what are you doing? Jamie knelt beside her, brushing the hair from her daughter's face. Why are you in here? They told me. Lily shivered, her voice barely above a breath. They said to hide. They don't like it when you see. A cold dread seeped into Jamie's bones like a winter chill. Who told you? As if summoned by her words, the air suddenly thickened, pressing against her skin. A low growl echoed from the corner of the room, coiling around them like a predator stalking its prey. Jamie's gaze darted to where the sound originated, but there was nothing. Only shadows, shifting, breathing, yearning. Dunn took one. Dunn took more. The voice was raspy and distorted, something not human. Jamie's pulse quickened. What was lurking in the dark? With shaking hands, Jamie grasped Lily, pulling her close. She couldn't think of any escape. She felt trapped, like a mouse caught in a snare. We need to go. Now. The words spilled from her mouth, frantic. As Jamie turned to flee, another scream sliced through the air, a raw, unfiltered cry ripping at her insides. It wasn't Lily's voice. The sound came from the distance, echoing off the walls of their small home. The scream twisted inside her, freezing her in place. Mommy! They're here. Lily's petite body trembled as she buried her face in Jamie's shoulder. Fear clawed at Jamie's insides. Who's here? She whispered, barely audible. From the fractured shadows, pale figures began to emerge, their eyes hollow and minds lost to despair. They drifted silently, entwined in darkness, hunger written on their faces. Jamie's mind raced. She remembered Big Joe's whispers about families disappearing, and the pictures her daughter's drawings. Were they hiding the horrifying truth? Lily, hold tight. Panic surged. In one swift motion, Jamie bolted from the room, pulling her daughter with her. As they raced down the corridor, stumbling footsteps echoed behind them, relentless and hungry. The front door loomed ahead, darkness swirling like a storm, thrumming with an unearthly pulse. Jamie flung it open, the chill of the night air crashing over them like a tsunami of fear. But as they stepped into the world outside, a low voice hummed from within the shadows of the house, resonating deep and sinister. You can't run forever, Jamie. The weight of that threat suffocated her, freezing her heart. Who was coming for them? What waited just beyond the threshold? Trembling, she clutched Lily tighter as they stepped onto the porch. But where would they go? The night stretched endlessly, shrouded in darkness, and in that instant, a dreadful realization crept over Jamie. It wasn't just the house that was unsafe. It was the entirety of Graywood, the unholy secrets it harbored, and Big Joe, lurking deeper still. What power did he hold over this cursed town? And could they truly escape before it claimed them? The night wrapped around them like a heavy cloak, stifling any chance of comfort. Jamie's breath came in fast bursts as she scanned her surroundings. The street outside was desolate, illuminated only by the pale moonlight that spilled across the cracked pavement. Every shadow seemed to harbor unseen threats, pulsating with a heartbeat of its own. Mommy, where do we go? Lily trembled in her embrace. Jamie's heart sank at the quiver in her daughter's voice. She was just a child, lost in a nightmare that threatened to swallow them whole. Anywhere but here, Jamie whispered, her voice shaky yet resolute. She pulled Lily close, guiding her around the house, desperately searching for a path that could lead them to safety. The figures inside sobbed and wailed, their cries merging into an anguished chorus that echoed in their ears. With every step away from the house, the air thickened, heavy with something unspeakable. The hairs on Jamie's neck bristled. Don't look back, Lily, she urged, forcing herself to keep moving forward, but the instinct to turn was nearly irresistible. A chilling presence lingered behind them, clawing at her mind, whispering warnings and curses. Jamie could almost feel their eyes burning into her, hungry and relentless. Mommy, I'm scared, Lily's small voice trembled, and in that moment, Jamie felt an urge to scream. She had to stay strong. I know, baby. I know. The suffocating dread tightened its grip around her heart. They reached the edge of the porch, stepping onto the uneven ground, and Jamie halted at a familiar sight, the old truck parked crookedly in the driveway, its rusty frame and faded paint a stark contrast against the night sky. "We can use that, we can leave." Jamie ushered Lily towards it, racing against time, but just as they approached, the atmosphere shifted sharply. The air crackled with electricity, and a palpable silence fell over them like a thick fog. "Mommy?" The fear in Lily's wide eyes pulled at Jamie's heart. Something felt wrong. I think they're here," the girl's voice cracked, ice forming in Jamie's veins. Before she could respond, a figure loomed out of the shadows, blocking their path to the truck. It was tall and gaunt, with limbs that seemed unnaturally elongated, skeletal in appearance. Its eyes glimmered like shattered glass, reflecting an insatiable hunger. Jamie felt the ground tremble beneath her feet. "Done took what's yours, now it's time for mine," the creature rasped, its voice a sinister whisper that echoed off the walls of the night. Jamie's stomach twisted at the words, dread flooding her senses. "No!" she shouted, panic bubbling to the surface, but instinct took over. She pulled Lily closer, feeling the girl's small body shake against her. "Run!" They darted towards the truck, desperation fueling their feet. Jamie fumbled for the door, praying it would open, praying the creature wouldn't reach them in time. As her fingers wrapped around the handle, a gut-wrenching growl erupted from the darkness behind them, a promise of horrors yet unseen. "Mommy!" Lily screamed, her voice a piercing cry that echoed in the stillness, but Jamie was lost in a frantic moment, willing the door to cooperate, to grant them escape. The handle turned, and the door swung open with a creak that mirrored the eerie stillness. "Get inside!" Jamie shouted, her heart racing as she glanced back, but whatever was in the shadows was closing in. The figure moved with unnatural swiftness, lurching towards them, its mouth stretched into a grotesque grin. "Go, go, go!" they screamed in unison. Jamie shoved Lily into the passenger seat, desperate to shield her from the approaching nightmare, but the encroaching darkness loomed like a storm cloud. Just as Jamie climbed in, a sharp pain lanced through her side. She gasped, the world around her blurring as her eyes met the horror trailing them. The last thing she heard before slamming the door shut was a sinister chuckle that echoed through the night, a sound laden with darkness, a promise of more terror to come. What awaited them if they escaped the truck? Would they truly be safe? As the engine roared to life, Jamie's hands trembled on the wheel, uncertainty gnawing at her. "Mommy, are we safe now?" Lily whispered, her voice thick with tears. "No, not yet." And with the chilling realization that they were only just beginning to fight, the road ahead twisted into the darkness, leading them into the unknown. The truck rumbled defiantly as Jamie's fingers gripped the wheel, knuckles white against the muted glow of the dashboard. Shadows danced like malevolent spirits just beyond the haze of the headlights, swirling into dark nothingness where the road vanished. "Mommy, what was that?" Lily's voice trembled, her small frame curled tightly against the passenger seat, eyes darting to the windows as if expecting to see the figure lurking outside. "I don't know, honey," Jamie whispered, her throat dry, but she forced her voice to carry a tone of calm. Just hold on." They sped down the empty road, the tires hissing on the cracked asphalt. Jamie's heart raced, not only from the fear but from the strange, lingering pain in her side. It felt like a fire burning out of control, spreading with every breath. She barely had time to think about it before dread washed over her again, that eye and the eerie stillness. Every noise felt amplified, the wheeze of the engine, the crunching of gravel beneath the tires, the muted thud of her own heart echoing in her ears. Turning as she drove, Jamie shot a quick glance at Lily. The girl was pale, eyes wide and glassy, cheeks stained with tears. Are they coming?" Lily's voice barely penetrated the suffocating darkness. "I don't know," Jamie said, fighting the urge to scream out loud. Where could they even go? The small town they once knew had become a prison full of horrors. Screech, she slammed on the brakes as an apparition flickered in the glow of the headlights, a spectral figure draped in rags, hands raised pleadingly. Jamie's heart lurched as she jerked the steering wheel to the right, tires screeching viciously, yet the figure lingered, mouth moving in silent agony. "Mommy!" Lily cried out, her small hands braced against the dashboard. "It's not real, Lily. Just close your eyes." But Jamie herself couldn't look away, the figure seeming so real, shadows animated in a grotesque ballet, flickering and twisting around it. The pain in her side flared as if responding to the apparition, a searing reminder of danger. With a determined shove, she pressed down on the accelerator, the truck lunging forward, tearing them away from the spectre's grasp. "Keep driving," she muttered to herself, a quiet mantra pushing back against the panic building in her mind. But as they continued to speed down the endless road, a new sensation began to creep in, an oppressive weight. A strange chill filled the truck, unlike the crisp night air outside. Thud! A single sound that vibrated through the metal frame. Jamie's pulse quickened as she swerved slightly, heart jumping, fearful of what might be behind them. "Lily, hold tight," she warned, eyes darting to the rearview mirror. Nothing was there. The road behind them was desolate, but something felt very much alive inside their vehicle. Another thud. Closer this time. "Mommy?" Lily trembled again, glancing back over her shoulder, her expression a mix of curiosity and fear. The lights flickered, and suddenly Jamie's vision blurred, the pain in her side flaring like wildfire, every heartbeat a clash of drums. "Not now." Jamie gained control just in time, swilling the wheel as a sharp pain drove through her torso. She felt it, grasping tightly at her insides, as if something was clawing its way out. As they drove on, the air turned thick with a suffocating dread, and the shadows began to melt into one another, whispering secrets she could not decipher. The truck's headlights wavered and dimmed. Then came laughter, the kind that rang hollow, echoing through the darkness like a cruel taunt. Lilting, sinister, slowly wrapping around them like a noose. "Mommy!" Lily's scream pierced her heart as the sound sent a cold shiver coursing through her veins. "They're coming!" Jamie shouted, tearing her gaze back to the road, where the asphalt twisted into an endless abyss. Desperation clawed at her mind. "Hold on, please, just hold on." But what could they fight against when the darkness seemed to manifest so intimately? As they closed in on an intersection, a sign crept into view, one she never wanted to see. "Dead end." And before she could decide, the truck came to an abrupt stop. The engine stuttered and coughed before finally dying out. All at once, silence suffocated them. "Mommy, what do we do now?" Jamie turned to Lily, dread pooling in her stomach as the sound of footsteps echoed ominously in the stillness surrounding them. What would come next should they dare to open the doors? The unease gnawed at her, and as Lily's whimper pierced the quiet, Jamie realized they were no longer alone. Shadows converged outside, thin tendrils reaching with a life of their own, and every instinct screamed for her to run. Not yet, Jamie breathed, but even she wasn't sure if they truly could escape now. The footsteps grew louder. Would they face the horrors together, or would the darkness snatch Lily from her grasp? Something was about to happen and she had no plan to stop it. The silence shattered like glass, Jamie's heart raced, each beat a call to fight or flee. She felt as if the shadows were tightening their grip, moving closer with every breath they took. Goosebumps prickled her skin. The oppressive darkness held its breath, ready to pounce. "Mommy," Lily whispered, her voice trembling like a fragile leaf in the wind. Jamie shot her daughter a glance, and there was no mistaking the fear etched across the little girl's face. Thud. Another sound, a soft but deliberate knock on the truck door. Jamie's breath caught in her throat, the chill creeping even deeper into her bones. The laughter echoed again, this time closer, more sinister. "Stay down, Lily," she instructed, her own voice a shaky whisper, barely above a breath. But the reality of their predicament loomed large and terrifying in the shadows beyond. The truck was their last bastion against the encroaching evil, and it seemed hopelessly vulnerable. There it was again. A scrape, followed by a whisper almost too quiet to hear but too invasive to ignore. Words strung together, indistinguishable sounds laced with contempt and amusement. A dark symphony playing just outside their sanctuary. What do they want? Lily's eyes glistened with tears, reflecting fear, and Jamie felt her heart fracture. I don't know, sweetheart. But we won't let them in, Jamie promised, more to comfort herself than her daughter. A hard tap against the window jolted her fear into action. Jamie turned slowly, her breath hitching as she caught sight of something writhing in the dark figures, cloaked in shadow, grinning masks carved out of pure blackness. They pressed against the glass with elongated fingers, nails scraping, leaving trails of darkness that seemed to drip like ink. Oh God, they were hungry. Mommy! Make them go away. Lily's voice grew frantic, a note of panic that set Jamie's nerves on fire. I will, she vowed, fumbling for the truck's ignition. Maybe it would roar to life one last time, drag them from the encroaching trap. Fingers dancing over the keys, she tried to suppress the boundaries of her desperation. But nothing happened. The engine coughed, then fell silent again. The figures outside only intensified, their whispers spitting out venomous laughter. You're trapped. You'll never leave. Jamie gripped the wheel, the pain in her side morphing into something deeper, more visceral. Every laugh felt like a knife to her gut, each sound twisting inside her. She knew something was wrong. This hopeless agony wasn't just panic. It was connected, something dark dragging from within her. Mommy, please. Lily cried, her little hands pressing against her mother's arm, desperate for something, anything to protect her from the looming shadows. Light. Jamie searched through her disarray, striking a match. I can't let them take you. Resolute, she opened the glove compartment, frantically pushing away the debris. She found a flare gun, a flimsy promise of hope. Stay back. She yelled, startling herself. But the fear was electric, rattling through her bones. Look, Mommy, please. Lily pointed toward the shadows that shimmered unnaturally, undulating like snakes. Panic rose again. The shadows surged closer, the laughter reaching a fever pitch. With trembling hands, Jamie aimed the flare gun through the window, steadying her breath. This was their only chance. On 3. 1, 2, 3. She pulled the trigger. A burst of fire erupted from the gun, illuminating the dark as it streaked into the swirling shadows. For a heartbeat, it was blindingly bright, then came an unholy scream that pierced them. As the light dimmed, the shadows recoiled, twisting away from the flames but not fading completely. They transformed, taking on forms, features forged from terror. Faces filled with wrath, hungry eyes glimmering with madness, and there they were, right outside the driver's side door. Join us, they sneered, stretching grotesque limbs, and Jamie's heart plummeted to her stomach as she realized the truth. The darkness wasn't just around them. They'd been invited in. The flare flickered and died, sending them back into suffocating blackness. Together, they were trapped. Mommy, what could she do? They were worse than dead. All we have is each other. Jamie shouted, gripping Lily tightly. But she felt the shadows swirl around them again, and a low chilling laugh conspiratorially danced at the edges of her sanity. Something was waiting for them to break. Hold on. Don't let go, Lily. The shadows pressed against them. A voice whispered, sending searing panic through her veins, you won't ever escape. Was it too late? A final decision had to be made. She could either face the darkness or surrender. But how much power lay within them? As the laughter escalated, Jamie's strength began to fade, and shadows clawed at her resolve. What awaited them could only be imagined in their worst nightmares, just beyond the fragile barrier. The night grew thicker, smothering their cries for help beneath an endless blanket of darkness. Jamie felt the air turn toxic, the shadows morphing and writhing like serpents intent on suffocating any remnants of hope. The desperate laughter vibrated in her ears, echoing around them, a chorus of malicious glee at their distress. Mommy, I'm scared. Lily's whimper shattered through her thoughts, so raw and innocent that it made Jamie's heart ache. She squeezed her daughter tighter, fighting the urge to let despair take over. She needed to think. Okay, Jamie's mind raced as she looked around the confines of the truck. It felt like a prison cold, cramped, with an unseen enemy clawing at its walls. "Mommy, look." Lily pointed, her eyes wide and filled with terror. Jamie followed her gaze. In that moment, the shadows shifted again, morphing into something else. Faces twisted with malice pressed against the glass, leering in as if they were trying to force their way inside. Their mouths moved, but the words dissolved in the air, sinister and taunting. "Please, don't let them get me," Lily begged, her little voice trembling. "I won tea, I promise," Jamie shouted back, even though a bone-deep fear paralyzed her. She had to break free. She couldn't let panic take hold, couldn't let the darkness win. Then, through the din of laughter and jeers, a new noise crept into her awareness. A low rumble, like thunder gathering in the distance. Was it a truck? The faintest flicker of hope ignited in her chest. "Listen, Lily. If we can get out of here," the sound crescendoed, blending together with the dark laughter that surrounded them. But the shadows hissed, sending a shock of fear through Jamie's veins. They were not about to let them escape. "Scream all you want," one of the figures shouted, its voice like sandpaper scraping against metal. "No one can hear you." Jamie's heart dropped. Despair clawed anew at her, threatening to drag her under. There was no help coming. They were utterly alone, left to face their inevitable end. "Mommy." Lily's alarmed voice broke through her spiraling thoughts, drawing Jamie's gaze back to the window. One shadow was getting bolder, trying to slip through the tiny crack between the door and the frame. Jamie leaned closer, instinctively raising her arm protectively over Lily. The figure stretched grotesquely, its face shifting, its mouth curling into a smile that sent sickening chills down her spine. "Join us, little girl," it crooned, a satisfaction radiating from its words that felt strangely familiar. "No. Stay away from her," Jamie shouted, the fear igniting a sudden ferocity within her. She would not allow them to take her daughter, she would fight to the end. With desperate resolve, she grabbed the flare gun again, her hands shaking but her purpose clear. "Hold on, Lily." Before the darkness could press in around them, she pulled the trigger again. Light exploded into the night, illuminating the terrifying faces of the shadows. But as the familiar scream erupted from their ranks, Jamie realized in horror the light didn't repel them. Instead, it only seemed to aggravate their hunger. Falling back, she tried to aim properly, the smoldering flare less assuring now than it had been moments before. The flames cast eerie shadows within the truck, distorting their reality, and the shadows outside didn't retreat, they surged forward. "How long can you keep this up?" The voice laughed again, echoing through the hollow space of her mind. The shadows reached further, grabbing at the edges of Jamie's panic, fanning it into a raging fire. The truck shifted slightly as something thudded against it. "Your time is running out." Fumbling for the words, for strength, Jamie felt the shadows creep further into her thoughts. "I will not let you take her," she screamed, but in her heart, a whisper grew louder, the realization that perhaps there was nowhere left to run. Just when she thought despair would consume them, the air shimmered and faded, a thin veil lifting. Through the crowded shapes, a sliver of pale light flickered in the distance. An opening. "Mommy. Look." Lily's tiny voice jerked Jamie from the precipice of hopelessness. Was it possible? Could they escape? But the shadows shrieked, thrashing, trying to claw at the light, desperate to hold on to their prey. "Run!" Jamie shouted, but would they reach it in time? The darkness roared in fury as Jamie opened the door, the thin light drawing her forward. As they leaped into the unknown, she clutched her daughter tighter. But was the light a promise of freedom or just another trap waiting to ensnare them? They pushed through, the laughter turning to wails, shadows clawing at their ankles, as Jamie and Lily plunged into the aching night. What would come next? What awaited them on the other side? The air felt different. It was thick with dampness, as if they had plunged through the light into a dense fog. Jamie stumbled forward, dragging Lily behind her. The laughter faded but was replaced by a cacophony of whispers, twisted and chilling, slinking around them like a frigid breeze. "Mommy, it's cold," Lily said, her voice small and fragile. Jamie paused, glancing back at the fading darkness behind them. The shadows were swirling, merging into a larger mass that loomed, festering with rage. She couldn't turn back. They had to keep moving. "Okay, baby, just hold on to me," she replied, squeezing Lily's hand tightly. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on her chest, but she pressed ahead. The eerie silence enveloped them except for the soft crunch of leaves under their feet, a rhythm that felt painfully out of place in this nightmare. "Is this the right way?" Lily's voice quivered as her little legs struggled to keep pace. "I think so." Jamie tried to sound confident, but the doubt seeped in. What kind of place had they entered? The air was heavy with the scent of decay, mixing with the pressing fear coiling around them. In the distance, shadows loomed tall, gnarled trees stretching grotesquely into the night. She felt a strange sensation, an itch at the back of her mind. Were they being watched? "Mommy, look!" Lily pointed again, wide-eyed with terror. Jamie swung her head around, scanning the shadows. Through the dense fog, she spotted a flicker of movement. A pair of eyes glimmered in the darkness, reflecting the weak light filtering through the mist, sending a new wave of panic crashing over her. "Don't look, Lily," she hissed, urging her daughter to focus on their path. But it was too late. The eyes grew larger, a yellowish glow, penetrating the veil of fog and locking onto them, hungry and eager. "Why are they staring at us?" Lily whispered, her small voice quaking. "They want something," Jamie said, her heart racing. "We need to hurry." They pushed forward, but the ground beneath them felt alive, pulsing as if it were breathing. Jamie's breath quickened, and she felt the shadows creeping in closer, tugging at her. "Mommy, I don't like this game." Lily whimpered. "It's not a game." Jamie snapped, her desperation spilling over. She gripped the flare gun tighter, an anchor against the encroaching fear. "Just stay by me." The whispers rose around them, building into a haunting chorus. Words slithered through the air, incomprehensible yet filled with malice. Jamie felt them brushing against her skin, icy fingers of dread sending shivers down her spine. Suddenly, without warning, a figure lunged from the trees, a grotesque silhouette against the mist. Jamie's heart leaped into her throat. It was a woman, or what had once been a woman. Her face twisted in a grotesque grin, eyes wide and hollow, dark as the void. "Come play with us," her voice was shrill, high-pitched and mocking. Lily gasped, clutching Jamie's leg. "No. Stay away from us," Jamie shouted, raising the flare gun. Desperation surged as the figure moved closer, her laughter mingling with the muted whispers. With a fierce pull of the trigger, the flare shot into the night. The sudden light sliced through the fog, illuminating the figure's contorted face. The laughter shattered, replaced by a blood-curdling shriek. But the light didn't hold them back. More figures emerged from the shadows, faces contorted with fury, arms reaching towards them. Jamie backed away, dragging Lily with her. The world around them twisted, the shadows moving faster as the figures converged. "Mommy, we have to run." "Go!" Jamie yelled, their escape now a frantic rush through the thickening mist. The trees closed in around them, their branches grasping like skeletal hands. A surge of adrenaline propelled them forward, the darkness breathing down their necks. But in the distance, further ahead, another flicker of light beckoned a promise of hope, or perhaps another lie hidden in the abyss. As they dashed toward it, Jamie glanced back just once. The faces melted into the darkness, merging with the trees, but there Laughter echoed sharp, wicked, and relentless. "Lily!" she yelled, pulling her daughter closer. Then the voices grew louder, a mocking chant that pierced the night. "You can't escape." With every step, Jamie felt the weight of despair pressing down harder. What waited for them in the light? Could they truly be free, or would they step into a greater darkness? The ground shifted, pulsing beneath Jamie's feet, as if responding to their fear. The cacophony of whispers rose, turning starker, sharper. It was as if the darkness itself was alive, an entity feeding on their panic. Jamie pulled Lily closer, her heart hammering like a frantic drum in her chest. She focused on the flicker of light ahead, a beacon in a sea of despair. "Just a little bit further," she urged, each word laced with frantic determination. The glow pulsed, beckoning them but also taunting, promising safety yet cloaked in sinister silence. They barreled forward, branches snagging at their clothes, the shadows darting in and out like twisted illusions. Then, a sudden thud echoed behind them, a heavy thumping, like footsteps too large to belong to any human. Jamie felt bile rise in her throat, but she forced herself to keep moving. "Careful," she warned, as a branch whipped across their path, curling like a skeletal claw. Lily stumbled, and Jamie felt panic rise again. She steadied her daughter, glancing back only for an instant. The eyes were closer. So close now they seemed to gleam with sadistic delight. "Mommy, I can't see the light anymore," Lily cried, her small voice breaking through the rush of terror. "What?" Jamie gasped, throwing her head around. The darkness was thickening, swallowing the light. It receded, twisting as if trying to pull them back into the void of nothingness. "It has to be there." But doubt gnawed at her heart. The figures, their twisted forms, their grins frozen in a state of madness, shuffled just at the edge of her vision. They were relentless, unyielding. Jamie couldn't let their dread overwhelm her. "Run!" Jamie shouted, thrusting forward, her feet pounding against the soft earth. The figures behind them laughed, a raspy, shrill sound that slithered into her mind, clawing at her sanity. Each laugh felt like a blade slicing through the air, and with every step, their urgency heightened. Then, a ripple of light broke through the choking shadows ahead, an almost tangible realization that pushed against the encroaching darkness. Hope surged within her once more, but this light had a different quality. It flickered and danced, erratic and wild. Jamie could feel it drawing her in, heavier than the first beckoning glow. "What is happening?" Lily asked, fear evident in her eyes as she glanced at her mother. "I don't know, sweetheart," Jamie responded, a tremor in her voice. "Just stay close." They pushed onward, but the air crackled with electricity, buzzing against her skin, every moment stretching like a taut rubber band ready to snap. The laughter faded momentarily, but it didn't quiet completely. Instead, it morphed, darkening into a low rumble, a sinister growl that hinted at things not yet spoken, and then she heard it, the soft trickling sound of water. Jamie's heart leaped. A stream? A river? Maybe a road? Something to guide them out. There. They reached the edge of the clearing, but the light twisted, illuminating a group of writhing figures circling something on the ground. Jamie's stomach dropped as she recognized it, a child's bicycle, overturned, its wheels still. "Mommy, no!" Lily whimpered, pulling back, sensing the danger before Jamie even understood the threat. The laughter surged again, echoing over the clearing. "No!" Jamie shouted, stepping forward. The figures turned, faces fraught with twisted glee, eyes wide with hunger. She raised the flare gun, her hands trembling. But before she could pull the trigger, the laughter erupted into a fierce howl, and the world around them collapsed into chaos. The figures lunged forward, shadows merging with fury as the light dimmed, darkness threatening to engulf everything. "Run!" Jamie screamed, her sense of direction lost in the despair. She whipped around, pulling Lily with her, but the darkness seemed to fold in on them, a living entity. The moments stretched dreadfully as they sprinted back into the woods, uncertainty gnawing at them. The whispers returned louder now, filling her mind with dread and regret. "Welcome, to your end." A heavy weight settled on her chest, and she gasped for air, fear pushing her further into the abyss. What monstrous truth awaited them in that clearing? What price would they pay for the light? Lily's feet struggled to keep pace, the damp ground sucking at her sneakers like a hungry beast. As they fled deeper into the forest, Jamie's heart raced not just from fear, but from a crushing sense of dread. The laughter, a terrible, unending sound, echoed through the trees, intertwining with the soft rustle of leaves in a mockery of their desperate escape. "Stay close. Don't look back," Jamie yelled, forcing words through a throat constricted with terror. Every instinct urged her to slow down, to look back, to understand what was chasing them. But she fought against it. Branches lashed at her arms, tearing through her shirt, scratching her skin. She clutched Lily tighter, feeling her daughter's heart pounding against her own. The thickening darkness was suffocating, like a weight pressing down, urging them to surrender. Then came another thud, a monstrous sound that seemed to shake the very ground they ran upon. It was close, impossibly close. Jamie risked a glance over her shoulder, and terror crashed over her like a wave. The figures slithered through the dark, silhouettes twisted into horrific shapes, moving with unnatural speed, eyes gleaming like feral beasts. "Run, Mommy, please!" Lily cried, her voice cracking, a raw echo mingling with fear. Jamie forced herself to sprint, veins humming with adrenaline. The cold air burned her lungs, making panic claw at her throat as they pushed away from the encroaching horror. Then they stumbled into a shallow ravine, the ground sloping down into shadowy depths. Jamie's heart dropped. There was no clear way out. They were trapped. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lily whimpered, her small hands gripping Jamie's arm like a vice. "Hold on to me," Jamie shouted, her voice breaking as she scanned the darkness for something, anything that could serve as salvation. A flash of light flickered in the distance, not the same inviting glow they had chased before, but rather a harsh, white flash that cut through the obscurity like a knife. "Look!" Jamie pointed. "We can make it to that light." But even as she said it, doubt twisted in her gut. The light flickered, flashed in and out like a weak heartbeat. With every pulse, more shadows spilled forth, melding with the darkness like ink in water, stretching and bending towards them. "Run!" she urged again, pulling Lily behind her as they ventured reluctantly toward the light. As they moved, the whispers became a chilling chant, a mocking lullaby that seemed to seep into their thoughts. "Come home. Come home." Each step felt heavy, like shackles weighing her down. They were moving toward that blinking light, each pulse an invitation wrapped in dread. Despite the fear that surged through her, Jamie couldn't shake the sense that they were being lured, a moth to an unspeakable flame, and with every step, the figures followed, their laughter growing louder, a cacophony of madness dancing at the edges of her sanity. It clawed at her heart, threatening to unravel her will. When they finally reached the precipice of the light, Jamie could see it clearer now, a rundown diner, its neon sign flickering in protest. "Over there!" Jamie gasped, dragging Lily across the threshold of the clearing. But as they approached, a sense of wrongness filled the air, thick like fog. The door creaked open, an invitation or a trap, and Jamie hesitated. "Stay back," she warned Lily, a chill racing down her spine. Shadows swarmed the doorway, figures shifting just beyond the threshold, eyes glinting with that same twisted hunger. "Mommy," Lily whispered, her voice tiny and frightened. "Don't move," Jamie snapped, panic coursing through her. She raised her flare gun again, her hands shaking as she aimed at the doorway. But as the light flashed brighter, the figures inside coalesced into recognizable forms, local faces twisted in grotesque grins, mouths stretching wide in that haunting mockery of laughter. "Welcome," they chorused, and in that moment Jamie understood the light was not salvation. It was a beacon for the damned. "What have we walked into?" she thought, heart racing with nauseating realization as she prepared for the nightmare. And just then, footsteps echoed from the shadows behind them, sending a jolt of terror through her body. Could there be an escape from this twisted game? Or was this the end of their brutal race against the dark? The diner loomed before Jamie like a dark pit, a false promise wrapped in flickering lights. It wasn't salvation. It was a stage where nightmares played their most grotesque scenes. Jamie's heart thundered in her chest as she pulled Lily close, desperation mixing with rage. They wouldn't take her daughter. Not today. Stay behind me, Lily, she whispered fiercely, her hands trembling on the grip of the flare gun. The shadows in the doorway twisted, morphing into familiar faces, neighbors, friends, people she had known her entire life now warped into hollow-eyed monsters. Join us, they crooned, voices sweetened with malice. A shiver raced down Jamie's spine as a low growl erupted from the depths of the diner. It's a trap. She shouted, and the figures outside the diner recoiled, their grins faltering momentarily. We have to move. With a fierce pull, she guided Lily back toward the trees, toward the impenetrable darkness that had brought them this far. Run! Jamie shouted, pushing through the dense underbrush, knowing even now their pursuers were close behind. She could feel the shadows swirling, their laughter mingling with the rustling leaves, a cacophony that screamed of creeping dread. Moments turned into an eternity as they navigated the thick brambles, a fear gnawing at them both. Mommy, I'm scared. Lily whimpered, the panic in her voice breaking Jamie's heart. But this time, she couldn't break. Couldn't falter. Me too, sweetheart. But we're stronger. Jamie urged, vision sharpening as a new light ahead caught her eye. Though flickering, it illuminated the dark forest floor, revealing an escape route. Look! That way! They sprinted toward the light, bursting into a clearing. An old highway sign beckoned them forward, flashing briefly with the words, Exit 7, Hope. The irony twisted in Jamie's stomach, but she wouldn't stop to think. They were closer than ever. But the laughter followed, relentless. Jamie could hear the footsteps pounding on the asphalt behind them, growing louder, more insistent. As the highway unfurled like a black ribbon before them, she turned to face the encroaching shadows, heart thundering with terror and defiance. Leave us alone. She yelled, voice echoing like a battle cry. She aimed the flare gun at the shadows creeping toward them, fingers trembling but resolute. You will not have her. With one swift pull, she squeezed the trigger, the flare erupting into a brilliant arc of fire. Bright flames exploded against the darkness, illuminating the faces of the shadows. They shrieked, the sound piercing Jamie's heart, but she didn't hesitate. Get to the road, Lily. She screamed, stepping back as the shadows writhed away, smoke curling around them like tendrils. Still burning with the heat of fear and adrenaline, Jamie thrust Lily forward into the safety of the road. The darkness lurked, but it was receding, flickering under the heat of the flare. Hurry! Jamie urged breathlessly, grabbing Lily's hand tightly. But just as they turned to flee toward the exit, a figure lunged from the shadows, a monstrous shape, eyes glinting with an otherworldly hunger. Join us! It howled, voice echoing with the screams of the damned. No! Jamie's instinct kicked in, and she threw herself in front of Lily, shielding her from the creature's grasp. You can't take her. In that moment, the overwhelming fury of a mother's love surged within her. A fire ignited that replaced her fear, chest tightening with pure adrenaline. With a primal scream, she lunged for the twisted figure, the flare gun blazing, and the darkness shivered at her rage, everything exploded into a blinding light. Jamie felt the burst consume her, pushing the darkness back, the acrid smell of burning shadows filled her lungs, and she knew this was the moment she had to stand strong. She clutched Lily, holding her against the raw heat, and felt strange energy surge through her as the shadows screeched, being incinerated in the soft glow of the flare. The laughter faded into nothingness, replaced by the sighing of the night wind. Stumbling back, Jamie stepped into the warmth of the road, breathing deeply, looking to the horizon where dawn began to break over the twisted trees of Graywood. Are we free, Mommy? Lily whispered, still trembling, her innocence shining through the remnants of fear. Yes we are, Jamie said, tears streaming down her cheeks, relief flooding every fiber of her being. They defaced the darkness together. It hadn't taken them. As the sun broke through, casting a golden light upon them, Jamie felt the weight of Graywood's shadows disappear, vanishing with the night. Hope prevailed. We're going home, baby, she promised, and hand in hand, they stepped into a new day, leaving the past behind. The road stretched ahead, and though the memories would stay, they were survivors bound to each other, stronger than the shadows that tried to break them. Together, they would face whatever came next. Keep fighting the darkness, wherever you are, because sometimes the light you seek is just ahead. Now don't forget, this is your moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. The community needs you to keep the tales alive.